everybody, welcome to another episode of the Book More Show. It's Stuart Bell here, and great episode today. And it's recorded with Dean. We did kind of like a year in review, just recording this in between Christmas and New Year. So thought it was a great opportunity to pick Dean's brain, take a look at what kind of trends have changed over this year, what things we're still pretty bullish about, and the experience that we've had dealing with people over the last 12 months. Some really interesting insights here, particularly in kind of the psychology, interestingly enough, the psychology of how people perceive requesting a book versus taking another action, and what we can do to make that as beneficial as possible. So great episode. I'm really looking forward to you hearing this, some great insights, and I will speak to you on the other side.
Aha! What do you want to know?
The secret. What I want to know. Isn't that a movie that I can't make a reference to? That's terrible.
I don't know.
We should move on with something more productive than me trying to guess at movies I can't remember.
You did grow up in a whole other country, so there's that.
With a completely separate language.
That's true.
So what I thought we would want to know today is a year in review of books.
Oh.
So I thought that might be quite interesting. What sparked the idea is obviously we're at the end of the year, so that's one thing. And then another thing is on Instagram, quite a few of the ads that I've seen recently are for people using books in various ways and a couple of different book type services. But a lot of them are talking about books in maybe a traditional sense of publishing and best-selling and that type of thing.
Yeah.
So I thought it might be interesting to talk about the changes that we've seen this year, because that definitely seems to be less of a thing than it was this time last year. This time last year, maybe lots of people are talking about bestsellers. This time, the reason the ad stood out is because it's the first one for quite a long time that I've seen. So, thought that would be interesting.
Well, the year in review in books has been very interesting because, there's a lot of things have happened, actually. A couple of notable things, like, people who are traditionally using webinars as a front-end lead generator.
Right.
And, finding that the cost of those leads is, what they thought was a reasonable amount. Some people were paying $7 or $8. Some people as low as $5 or $6. But very rare that I hear that low a price. But mostly people would be in the $10 range or so for a webinar registration. And in one notable, like one that really stands out that we did actually on the fly while we were in Amsterdam, was this gentleman who was there, young guy, who was running very profitable webinar campaigns, right? Doing it where he would spend, $10 and or 10 euros, sorry, just over 10 euros to get a webinar registration. And they were converting those at a, fairly profitably. And we switched while we were there at the event. So we're there for 3 days. We talked about it on day one. He, is a fast action kind of guy. We turned everything around, started offering a book to the same, in the same ad, just replaced register for the webinar to download this book, and got the cost from just over 10 euros to €1.18, or what do you call it? €1.08?
Cents.
Equivalent. Yeah. So €1.18. And that the thing is that often people are reluctant to do that because people think, well, people who come to a webinar have more skin in the game, or they're more committed. And what it really means is that you're just getting forced consumption, right? And that's, I agree with it 100%, that is what you want. But there's nothing stopping you from, and this is the path that we take, is offering the book on the front end and then immediately inviting people to the webinar, or immediately just going right into playing the webinar. That's the first thing they see. And so we've seen that happen now, again and again, that I've got so much evidence of this being the way to go. I love it even for myself, for our stuff. I just launched a new book called The 50-Minute Marketing Sprint. And that cut our lead cost in roughly half from the previous control book. So we're getting book opt-ins in the $2 to $3 range, and and that makes a big difference when you're, even I look at it and our thing. I was happy. And everybody's sort of in awe when you tell people you get them for $4, or under $4, and then to get them for a while there, we were getting them at under $2, and then I raised the age limit and refined the audience even better, and we're now at still a $2.50 kind of thing for our ideal audience, and that makes a difference.
Yeah, that whole thing about the 2 points to that, the cost of the traffic in the first place, and the ability to open up way more conversations at much more cost-effective price, and then the idea of separating out that, collecting the details from people, so you've got that for the long term versus going straight for the offer. And although the now people might be more now, or you might see them as more now in the original plan, the opportunity to talk to the people who are now later and not have to reacquire or repay for those same eyeballs.
Right.
The combination of those two is astronomically different in terms of cost.
Yes, that's the thing. That's my look at it, that I would much rather pay $2 today for a lead who might not buy for a year, but I get to email them for free for a year, rather than pay $10 for somebody who's more inclined, I don't even know that that's true, but perceptually more inclined to buy now, and then have to pay $10 again later to reach them. It's free. It's free essentially to educate and motivate them, and that's what makes a big difference, is the asset value of the list of unconverted prospects, the people who have not yet bought. The goal would be that every year that list gets bigger and bigger. Like I look at that. That's our primary asset. I mean, you and I were just talking about that when we were doing some of our planning. Our primary asset is our lists. Our main lists of the real estate, all the realtor side, all the entrepreneur side, and the book side. All of those three things are the primary assets, and they've all been gained by somebody downloading a book in some form or fashion.
Yeah, that idea of the people's concern about not wanting to stop what they're doing because it's working and it seems to be effective, but that idea of going from a different opt-in, a book opt-in, straight through to the same offer that you would make anyway, just seems like the perfect blend of the two. If you're concerned about what the change might mean, then this is the minimum effective change that you could possibly make in order to get the most bang for the buck and build a lead, but then still immediately go into that same funnel. I was just talking to some of the guys I work pretty closely with, financial advisors, are doing the traditional or common postcard to event to offer after the event, that type of approach. So we were kind of split testing the book opt-ins, and the first one to go out in January. But the follow-up sequence there, we were talking about having a couple of steps in the sequence to kind of move people towards the event. But talking today, I think changing that again so that we immediately go to what would have been the original offer, the event offer. No need to put additional things in, put the additional things in after and then cycle back to it, rather than thinking about this as a funnel a campaign where there are many steps before you actually get to the
you still, I mean, the fact is, listen, if you are this is what I say to people, what's amazing, right? And we've done it with we've done it very famously with print ads, people doing workshops or seminars. I think about Malton as a perfect example, Schneider, doing stem cell seminars or workshops and running full page ads in the Louisville newspaper, and getting 20 or 30 people coming to the workshop, and then switching to getting a book, but now getting 80 people coming to a workshop and building a list of 1,200 people has been a big win. And that is the exact same model here. What I say to people is, it's not like we're getting a completely different class of people. It's just that we're getting, you know what I mean? We're fishing in the same pond. The same pond is, it's all of the readers of the newspaper, or it's all the people, all their news feeds in the audience that you are that you're focusing on in Facebook. Everybody there, it's 100% of them. And when your offer is, come to this webinar, they have to not only be interested in the information, they have to also be willing to come to a webinar, and they have to be available on Tuesday night or whatever it is. So they've got to jump through 3 hoops to do it. Whereas, and so, there's no, people are filtering themselves out of this instead of the people who, if you offer them a book, can ask for the book now and still be interested in the information. So you're just identifying, you're getting a more qualified, you're narrowing down your list actually from the big audience. You're turning invisible prospects into visible prospects. And every single time we've done this, I mean, you look in every instance with the financial advisors, with the doctors, with coaches, talking more. Same thing with doing webinars. Switch to book opt-ins and engage with the people. Getting those leads for way less than what the webinar leads are.
Yeah. On the leads front, this year we've seen a change this year in using lead forms more than sending people to landing pages. Of all of the people that we've worked with, for me, the conversations I've had, it's still lead forms still seems to be the most effective, seamless way of doing it. Have you seen anything different, or does that hold true?
Well, I think it goes down to convenience, and it's much easier for people to just push the button than it is to go to the website, fill something out. Anytime you have friction in something, you're going to limit it, and so I think that it's, a good thing to, to get those, to use the lead forms. It's my favorite thing.
I think that holds true for all of the steps that someone would have to take immediately after that as well. If you do want to move them onto the webinar side of things, or you do want to move them into whatever that next step is, making sure that is as seamless as possible. Yeah. See a couple of examples of people kind of stitching various different funnels or different assets together, and even the visual incongruency from jumping from one thing that looks in one way to something that looks completely different. It's almost jarring and separates the flow, making it as simple and streamlined, and just the small steps to go from one to the next to the next.
I think
definitely
you're right.
a way of going it. Yeah.
I've come to this thing that what's really going on when people are downloading a book, and we've talked about it before that since the Kindle and Kobo data came out, that shows kind of the state of readership, that really over half the people that buy a book never open it, and
Right.
that only 22% of them get past the first 80 pages. And that is that's pretty fascinating. But I think what's happening is that we're going along the road with, when we're in our day-to-day lives, we're kind of dealing with our future Dean and our present Dean, and our we've kind of got the planner and the doer, and the guy with the hopes and the things, and the present Dean. And I say this, I'm taking myself collectively for everybody, that present Dean, present you, only wants to do what they want to do right now, right? They don't want to do they want to put things off into the future. Right. If I don't have to do something now, I don't want to do something now, right? But we also get a sense that we're, future Dean. We keep putting things off to future Dean. Oh yeah, future Dean will figure that out, right? And then when we realize that when we arrive there is no future Dean. It's all present Dean. And that, part of the thing is that if you live in a culture of, your own personal culture of putting things off to future Dean, that what ends up happening is that present Dean is constantly living in a state of crisis, of having to clean up the mess that present Dean left him in, because he didn't take action when he could have to prepare for future Dean, right?
Yeah.
And so you're laughing because you see that there's a little bit of awareness in that, right, for me. But here's the thing, is that present Dean does think fondly of future Dean and wants him to get the help that he needs, but he doesn't want to be involved in any way or inconvenienced in any way. So
he just wish he would get it sorted out.
Yeah, if I could just click this button and get this book, that future Dean would appreciate this. I'm not going to read it. I'm not going to read it right now, but future Dean would love this. And I'm okay pushing this button to make that happen for future Dean, so I can pat myself on the back, feel like I've taken some progress for future Dean, and then I can get back to my day, right, of doing whatever I want to do. But I'm not going to sit through a webinar today for future Dean.
Right. Yeah, I'm invested in the outcome and I want it to be sorted out, but not to the extent of taking half an hour.
Right, exactly. I don't have that today. I'm not going to do that, but I'll put this out there for future Dean. And so that dynamic, as exaggerated as it sounds and silly, it's exactly what's going on. I'm convinced of it, that's why it's easy, because we know we want these future things, and it's easy to buy a book or to download a free book, especially to help our future Dean. It's like almost, and it's so great that we're it's really about this little experiment lab that we're running with our own brains, trying to observe and see how things actually happen. And when you really understand what's going on inside the mind of your prospect, that's going to be a big advantage, because you can shape things to go with the current of that.
Going with the current is such a fantastic way to describe it, because trying to fight against it or trying to wish that it was a different way, trying to change people partway through, that's going to take a lot of effort and really not going to go anywhere. This train's moving in this direction. Get on board, understand where it's going, and plan a couple of steps ahead. I think that's why the book Blueprint Scorecard is written. It's ordered in the way that it's ordered. It starts with the who you're talking to, the target market, and then there's the title and the subheading, because that's the first point that gets people to raise their hand. But then it jumps to the minimum viable commitment call to action. It jumps to what you want them to do next, and then it comes back to the outline. And it's not until we've done all of those that we even start to think about content, because the content isn't the thing. It's just, as you said, it's the direction. It's what we anticipate people wanting to do next, and they're making it as easy as possible for them to jump to that point.
That's right.
The book is almost it is the Trojan horse that gets the message through for the next steps.
That's it.
That the types of books that people often come with a specific idea, if not a specific intent. So this idea of a manifesto type book versus a how-to type book, and I'll link in the show notes the link to the book title types webinar workbook that we've got. But this idea of a manifesto book for introducing an idea versus a specific book answering a question, it's a conversation that I've had a lot more this year than previously, and I think in part because you've articulated it more and we've talked about it more ourselves. It's more front of mind. But it always kind of trips over a little bit as I'm talking to people, the difference between those two, because I get into the weeds a little bit and then the two start sounding similar. So for you, as you're talking to someone, how would you describe the difference between this idea of the manifesto book and more of a step-by-step or how-to type book?
Well, I look at the the role of this, right? It depends on where you're trying to meet somebody. And what I'm looking for from the book, I'm almost always focused on as a lead generation tool, right? And so what that means is focusing more on the compelling than the convincing. And so I'm not trying to teach somebody something. I'm not trying to, give them so much, action stuff, or educating them. What I'm doing is I'm looking to think about what is it that they would really want. We want this to really resonate with their desires. And that's why you look about the manifesto type of book is putting out something like our listing agent lifestyle book, where those words, if you're a real estate agent, resonate because that's what you want to be, and you've got a way to have a life instead of what real estate is traditionally known for. Is you've got to sacrifice your life to be a successful realtor. But it's not that way. We want to have a listing-centric business with an approach to lifestyle. And so laying those things out, when you lay out the sort of, here's what we believe, or here's what this picture, the cover of the box, that's a good way to describe it, is if you've got a multi-part big vision for somebody that requires a lot of steps and hopefully a long-term relationship with someone, what a manifesto type of book would do is lay out the cover of the box, of the puzzle of how to put this all together, right? So if we look at the cover of the box is the listing agent lifestyle, but inside now, in order to do that, here are the elements of that. We've got to, have a way to get listings and to multiply your listings and to get referrals and convert leads and find buyers. And then the lifestyle elements of have abundant joy or daily joy and abundant time and financial peace. So we lay out this is what we're all about. These are all of the things that are in store if you buy into this listing agent lifestyle. And then each of those chapters or elements becomes its own training program. So now you're saying,
Right.
if you want those things, then we've got a whole program called Getting Listings. Here's how we help you do that. If you want to multiply your listings, here's our whole program around that. Everything is like an introduction to all of those things and gives people the map of the territory. And then ultimately the scorecard can help lead them to the path to
what that
journey.
next step is. Yeah. I think that's a great point as well, because so often it's kind of, I need to write a book has a good idea, here's some words that could go in a book, therefore we should do that, rather than thinking about where does it fit into the bigger picture. The book is just a tool in this bigger thing that we're creating, and it really does depend on how people are coming in and where their point of reference is. So rather than just do the thing that's the most relevant to how it's being used at that for that purpose, that job of work.
That's right.
Yeah. The talk there about the scorecard as a follow-up to help people.
Well, the scorecard, once somebody, if I look at it in terms, if I take our approach here, that once somebody asks for the book has done its job. Now, what I want to do next is I want to engage in a conversation with people, right? I want to see, are they 5-star prospects? Remember, 5-star prospects are people who are willing to engage in a dialogue, friendly and cooperative. They know what they want. They're ready to get it, and they'd like us to help them. That's what a 5-star prospect is. So when I look at, we always start at the top. Are they willing to engage? So we give people next steps that are kind of like their way to engage, right? If you want to see how the listing agent lifestyle elements are working in your business right now, go to listingagentscore.com, fill out the listing agent lifestyle scorecard, and then they see where they need the work. We do the same thing with the Profit Activator score. We do the same thing with the Book Blueprint score. That it's a way for people to find what they need to do, right? Kind of like where they assess where they're at. Now, if we look at our Profit Activator score card, I look whenever we get, lots of those every day, people filling out the Profit Activator scorecard. And what I'm looking for is we can see where somebody is, where their strength is, and where their opportunity is, right? And so you look and identify patterns. So what I look for, our Profit Activator scorecard has, the 8 Profit Activators on it. I'm looking for people who are strong in Profit Activator 5, where they can deliver a dream come true result, and people who are strong in Profit Activator 1, where they know who they want to attract. And then they're struggling in Profit Activator 2, generating leads, and Profit Activator 4, making offers to convert those leads. Those are things that we can help people with, right? And so it's all now engaging with them. So we can take the scorecard, look at it, and say, and start a conversation with them relevant about what the scorecard reveals for them.
It's such a great, almost, it's one of the great interview type questions almost of, here's a way of evidencing that you're a 5-star prospect because you're engaging and feeding back and you're demonstrating or sharing with us that you know what you want and where you are at the moment, but it gives so many insights to then for us to go back and continue that relevant conversation that you were just talking about. I think that's such a difference from what everyone else is. Can't think of an example where I've ever seen anyone else do that in all of the kind of like the consumer interactions that I've had. It's always raise your hand for something. Well, in the cases where it is raise your hand for something, is then just immediately onto a relatively automated train of yeah, exactly. Yeah, other people who have expressed this interest have also bought this type of thing. There's no attempt to engage or get to a real person. And I think this is what we're talking about all the time. It's getting to that conversation with a real person. It's not just burn and churn through automated leads. It's getting someone to engage in a meaningful way and then following up with them. And the book is a great way of doing that at the beginning, and then orchestrating those steps, thinking about those steps, being that chess player is a great way next. Fantastic. Well, I think that does it for today. Thank you for your time.
We settled it.
I think so. That was 2019.
I like it. I think that's my big takeaway is, I'm bullish on books still even more. And, I can't think of any better way for people to get started than to let us do it for them.
Yeah, definitely.
That's the easiest thing.
Fantastic. Okay, buddy. Well, thanks for your time. We will catch you in the next one.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, cheers, man. Bye. And there we have it, another fantastic episode. Really love this idea of people willing to take a certain amount of commitment for their future selves, but not necessarily too much time out of their day, and how a book really ticks that box. We were talking, I was just kind of in the office recording here and looking at the bookshelf behind me, and there's 20 books on the shelf that I have still every intention of reading, and I'm excited to read, and they've been on the shelf and in fact moved from the UK to the US still unread. They've been like that for years, and those are books that have paid good money for, excited to read, but still haven't quite, the future me still hasn't quite gone into pulling the trigger on them. So with that said, 2 things that you can do to take this journey a little bit further. First, we were talking about scorecards through the episode, so a link in the show notes, or head over to bookblueprintscore.com and just measure your idea against the 8 mindsets of the Book Blueprint Scorecard. Great way of thinking about all of those 8 different steps in a slightly different way, and then seeing where you can pay more attention, which areas need more attention in order to get the best return. And then the second thing is, obviously, we can get this up and running for you. So the quickest way of getting your book out there is to talk to us. We're just, as I mentioned before the show, just recording this a couple of days before New Year. So there's always the opportunity to, if you're not quite ready, to buy a book now so that you can write it off this year's taxes and then don't need to start until next year. So head over to 90minutebooks.com and follow the Get Started links at the top, and you can see the options that we've got for you there. As always, if you've got any questions, just shoot us an email to podcast@90minutebooks, and either myself or Betsy will pick those up and we'll get back to you. Looking forward to an exciting 2020 with you guys on board. We've got lots of exciting things coming up, new book types, and a new focus on some of the podcast things that we've talked about before as a way of engaging with people for the long term, just as we were saying in the show. That opportunity to freely educate and motivate the people who have opted in until now is now for them. So with that, I hope you had a fantastic holiday. Happy New Year to everyone, and I will speak to you in the next one.